Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all enjoying GBL. I know that I am because I just reached Legend. Yay! Finally! But I've decided to make this a two-part video because I reached Legend with two different teams in two different leagues, sort of. Something like that. But there was an Ultra League team that I was using that I really believed in, and I really thought was going to be the team that would get me to Legend, and also I really wanted to reach Legend with Regidrago. But once I got into the 2900s, I stopped finding anyone playing Ultra League. I was literally in queue for 40 minutes for an Ultra League game, and I found no one. So I had to give up on that and play Great League, and when I started playing Great League, well, we went on a 150 point drop, and that was not fun. I was starting to lose hope. But then the next day, which is today, when I played Great League again, I decided to try out a slightly different team, and we got two 5-0s in a row to reach Legend. I am not joking, I dropped to the 2800s, and then all I needed was the two 5-0s in a row from today's battles, and we made it to Legend. But this team, this Ultra League team that you guys are seeing on the screen right now, got me to 2993. I think it was 2993. So I was like 7 points away from Legend with this Ultra League team, but I could not find anyone at all in that elo to play Ultra League with. So I've decided to split my Legend run into two separate videos because I really feel like this team needs its time to shine, and I really have to show it off. I will definitely be playing Regidrago, Talonflame, and Lapras in the Ultra League when it comes back. And then the next video that I will release will be that other Great League team that I used to get me over the finish line, basically. And that team, by the way, ended up being so similar to the team that I used last season to reach Legend. Alright, I'm not going to ramble too much. If you lose lead, just swap into Lapras. And with that, let's jump into these battles. I have a lot to cover today because I'm making two videos. Alright, in this first match, we are up against a Guzzlord on the lead. This team, I believe, ends up being similar to the team I'm running. I believe my opponent is running Guzzlord lead with Lapras and Talonflame in the back. But they are one shield down, so I go for a Brave Bird here against a Talonflame, and then I swap into my Lapras. Now, I am going to call that my opponent might go for a Brave Bird as well. They don't, they go for a Fly, but I end up double shielding my Lapras anyways. And they have a Lapras of their own in the back, so I'm really hoping that this doesn't have Skull Bash. Otherwise, we are really going to lose this. But I'm just going to start spamming out these Sparkling Arias. Let's see if my opponent has Skull Bash, Moment of Truth. No, it looks like they are on Sparkling Aria and Ice Beam as well, so I might have a chance here, but my opponent is farming up so much energy on this Lapras. I want like a window of opportunity to bring in my Talonflame to do a little bit of damage to them. They also have a shield left, but we finally get that final shield from them. Now I'm thinking here this is game over, but we live the Sparkling Aria that they throw. I swap out into Talonflame, but of course I'm gonna have to take a move from them, so they take our Talonflame out. But somehow we manage to reach a move on our Lapras, take their Lapras out, they don't catch it on their Talonflame. Then we can Psywave their Talonflame down and actually take that win. Our Lapras survived with very little HP. I was so sure that their Psywaves were going to knock us out, but they didn't. I mean, I'm running a rank 3 Lapras, so it's pretty bulky. Anyways, moving on to the next battle, we're up against a Zygarde on the lead. Our opponent swaps into a Fortress. We manage to take the Fortress out with our Talonflame, of course, and then they are going to bring that Zygarde back in. Now I go for a Fly and then a Brave Bird, and then I swap out into my Regidrago. I don't think my opponent built up to an Outrage, so I let the Bulldoze go, and their final Pokemon is a Shadow Steelix. Okay, we are in a good position here because the Zygarde isn't the biggest threat for the team that I'm running. I have a Lapras left, and the Lapras is running Ice Beam, so that is really going to hurt their Zygarde. Now I do go for a couple of moves from our Regidrago onto the Steelix, and I noticed that Regidrago's moves actually hurt Steelix quite a bit, especially that Dragon Energy. So we get them into the yellow, and now we have a Lapras with a shield left. And let's see how this is going to go. I'm going to go for a Sparkling Aria. Hopefully I can survive to reach another one. Actually, I won't need to because I can come in with my Talonflame and incinerate the Steelix down and take that win. All right, now moving on to the next battle. I am going to throw a move from my Regidrago, and then I will swap into my Lapras here. They are running Ice Beam, so I know I can bring in my own Lapras and I won't get destroyed by Skull Bash. I go for a Dragon Energy, and then I attempted to catch the Ice Beam on my Lapras, but unfortunately for me, my opponent is going to bring out one of the biggest counters for this team, which is Registeel, but it's not impossible to deal with the Registeel. I'm just going to try to damage this as much as I can with the Sparkling Arias, and then hopefully Talonflame can take care of whatever's in the back. I think I remember this match. It was definitely winnable, but something goes wrong here. I have to shield the Sparkling, or the Surf from Lapras, and they make it to another Surf. Oh yeah, this is what went wrong. I had to take a Surf on our Talonflame, unfortunately, because my opponent has a Venusaur in the back, if I remember correctly. So I'm gonna go for a Brave Bird here, hoping that it KOs the Registeel, but they live with very little HP, and then my opponent is going to bring that Venusaur out when I swap into Regidrago. I was really hoping for a debuff, at least from the Breaking Swipes, but the game just did not want to give me that debuff. So our opponent is going to go for a Sledge Bomb here, and then they're able to Vine Whip the Regidrago down and have a move ready for our Talonflame. Unfortunately, the Sledge Bomb is going to KO, and they're just going to be able to take us out and take that win. Unfortunately, we're not going to get the 5-0 in that set, but we get a 4-1, which is still really, really good in this ELO. Now on to the next match. We are up against a Malamar on the lead. I'm going to stay in here and try to damage this as much as I can. I don't want the Malamar aligned to our Lapras because the superpowers are going to hurt. They go for a Foul Play and then they swap out into a Lapras of their own. Okay, I go for a move from my Regidrago and then I farm up a little bit and swap into my Lapras, really hoping that my opponent is running Ice Beam, but they are running Skull Bash. I am not going to shield anything on our Lapras, but I am going to be able to take them out, it looks like, before they reach another Skull Bash, thank goodness. And then our opponent is going to bring that Malamar back in, going for a superpower here to take our Lapras out. Hopefully, whatever our opponent has in the back, we can handle with Talonflame. And it's looking pretty good for us because it is a Florges. Talonflame is absolutely going to wall the Florges, and our opponent is going for Trailblazes, which is pretty decent for us because I don't have to shield them. The Moonblasts are really going to hurt though. But I go for a Fly here, take a shield from my opponent, and my opponent is still going for Trailblaze, so I let the move go. And I go for another Fly here. I'm okay with them catching it on Malamar because the Malamar is still very healthy and I really need to take this out. I go for a Breaking Swipe here. We take the Malamar out, and then my opponent brings that Florges back in, and I reach a Dragon Energy, and it's enough to take them out, and we take that win. And we still had 2 shields left, so we were good. On to the next battle. We're up against another Zygarde lead. What I noticed when I was playing Ultra League in this ELO was that if anyone was choosing to play Ultra League, usually they had a Zygarde. And that's probably why they wanted to play Ultra League, because Zygarde is very, very strong. So a lot of people I was running into were running that on the lead. Now our opponent swaps out into Lapras, and again we damage it a little bit with our Regidrago, and then we swap into our own Lapras. And it doesn't look like they're running... Oh wait, they are running Skull Bash. Never mind. I was not paying attention. So I know this is going to be a Sparkling Aria, so I let it go, and I just want to farm down so that I have so much energy for whatever my opponent is going to bring in. They bring in a Wheezing. They do not want to get Ice Beamed by our Lapras on their Zygarde. So I'm just going to go for 2 Sparkling Arias against this Wheezing. I could have reached another one as well, but our opponent swaps out into Zygarde, so I go for the Ice Beam, take a shield from them, and then I am going to bring in Regidrago. At this point, Regidrago is useless to us, so I think I'm just going to let whatever this is go. It ends up being the Bulldoze, and I'm not going to shield my Regidrago. I know that I can win this with Talonflame. I don't want to debuff myself here, so I go for a Fly, which my opponent ends up catching on Wheezing. I am completely fine with this. I can no-shield this as well because I know it's going to be a Bulldoze, but I go ahead and use my final shield. And then I go for a Brave Bird, take the Zygarde out, and take another win in the Ultra League. We were winning so much with this team. I really did not want to give up on it, but you'll notice the time jump here because I was not finding any matches. So I took a little break and I came back to it in the evening, really hoping that I would find more players playing Ultra League in the evening, but that wasn't the case. Now in this next match, we're up against a Gastrodon on the lead. I got a shield from my opponent, so I'm okay with letting Regidrago go. And I am going to bring in Talonflame here. All my opponent can do is throw Body Slam, but I don't want to take another one just to keep my Talonflame healthy, so I am going to go for a Fly. Now our opponent brings in a Moltres, Galarian Moltres, and I go for a Brave Bird, expecting my opponent not to shield. They don't. It lands. And then I swap out into Lapras, and our opponent's final Pokemon is a Tinkaton. I think they had a chance to do something there, but they go ahead and they top left. Moving on to the next battle, we're up against a Primeape on the lead. They go for the close combat immediately, and thank goodness I called it. I was almost not going to shield Regidrago, but they go for the close combat on Primeape, and then they swap into a Lapras. I go for a Dragon Energy to weaken their Lapras, and we manage to catch the Ice Beam on our own Lapras. Thank goodness they are not running Skull Bash. I can just stay in here and try to get as much energy as possible from this Lapras, expecting my opponent to bring that Primeape back in, but they bring in a Belly Bolt. This is really good for me because I can now switch lock my Regidrago into their Belly Bolt, and hopefully it won't be against our Talonflame, and we can align Talonflame to Primeape. So I'm just going to try to damage this as much as possible, and then I just let the Parabolic Charge go because my opponent doesn't have any shields left. So I'm hoping that I could do some damage with Lapras. This is actually not looking too great for me because I let the Regidrago go. But the reason I let it go was because I felt like they were going to be able to farm us down. But then my opponent here messes up. They swap into Primeape. Because they did that, I am going to bring in Talonflame, and I'm going to go for a full farm down. Otherwise, I think I would have lost this. But I come out of this with 2 Flies. One for the Belly Bolt and one for the Lapras that is still alive in the back. And we actually managed to take that win. Otherwise, I think that Belly Bolt could have made it to another move, and it would have been really, really bad for me. But we end up taking a 5-0 in that set, which is really nice. Again, I really did not want to give up on this team, but this set took me literally all evening to complete. On to the next battle, we are up against another Zygarde on the lead. Okay, I'm gonna stay in this and try to damage the Zygarde as much as possible. I think if I go for Dragon Energy, my opponent is going to shield. So I just go for a Breaking Swipe. I build up to the Dragon Energy, however, and they actually let it go, but we reach another Breaking Swipe, and this will KO if they let it go. Okay, so they just decide to sacrifice their Zygarde. All right, so our opponent brings out a Steelix. I did not want them to farm the Regidrago down, so I swap into my Lapras, and I'm gonna go for these Sparkling Arias up against Steelix. Not great. Not a great matchup for us because they are running Thunderfang, but I should start getting shields here from the opponent. Actually, no, they just let it go. Okay, Really interesting choice. They are saving 2 shields for whatever they have in the back. It ends up being a Gastrodon. Okay, we might have a chance here. I have no idea why my opponent decided to no shield everything on Steelix, because Steelix really could have destroyed our backline. But we are just going to start spamming out these flies against this Gastrodon, and I can go ahead and use my final shield here. Actually, no. I just let it go. I know that I'm at a fly, and I'm going to be able to get their final shield from them here. And then I can bring in Lapras and reach a Sparkling Aria to take this Gastrodon out and take yet again another win. But in this match, my opponent's shielding was a little bit questionable, or lack of shielding. Now, I am going to sprinkle in some Great League games because I got tired of waiting in the queue, so I went to Great League. We're still using Regidrago, however, but we are using it with double Steel. It's going to be Steelix and Scissor in the back. Now, it looks like we might be up against a similar team because our opponent led Regidrago as well, and then they bring in a Scissor, a Shadow Scissor. Okay, I can let Steelix go here. I managed to get most of its health off with the Steelix, and our opponent's final Pokemon is a Credilli, which our Scissor is absolutely going to destroy, so our opponent goes ahead and top lefts. Now, moving on to the next battle, we are up against a Shadow Dusclops on the lead. I have to watch out for the Ice Punches, so I'm gonna invest a shield here, and then I think I'm gonna try to catch the next one on our Steelix. Just gonna go for a Dragon Energy. Actually, never mind. We go for the Dragon Energy, and our opponent lets it go, and it one-shots the Dusclops. Okay, our opponent has a Tinkaton in the back. That's not great for us. And then I swap into Steelix, and they bring out a Shadow Marowak. Even worse, I'm gonna let Steelix go and really hope that Regidrago can kind of handle this Shadow Marowak. They shield it. I am going to let whatever this is go, really hoping that a shield for our Scissor is going to win us this match. So our opponent is going to start spamming out these Bulldozes. I decided to shield the first one, which probably was not a great idea. In case my opponent gets a debuff on our defense, then I should have shielded one of the next Bulldozes. However, thank goodness we don't get a debuff. They go for another Bulldoze here, finally getting that defense drop. I have to go for the Night Slash immediately on the Marowak. We get a couple of bullet punches off on the Tinkaton before having to come in with our Regidrago and farming the Tinkaton down with Dragon Breath to take them out and actually take that win. That was so close as well because our opponent needed one more Fairy Wind to reach Bulldoze, and they would have won that. Now, we did play another set in Great League after that one, but I believe we lost, so I decided to wait till the next day, hoping that maybe queue times in Ultra League would be a little bit lower. So we are back in Ultra League right now. We have a Lapras on the lead. I am just going to try to weaken this Lapras before swapping out into my own Lapras. Again, I tried to catch an Ice Beam, didn't work out. Instead, we draw out a Drapion. Okay, a non-shadow Drapion. So I think I should be able to live 3 crunches comfortably. But I am going to have to land 3 Sparkling Arias. Our opponent has a shield left, but I don't think they want to use it on this Drapion. I should be able to win this. Unfortunately, the Psywaves don't do a lot of damage or enough for me to farm down. So I am going to have to go for that 3rd Sparkling Aria. And yes, we did live 3 crunches. This is why you run a high rank Lapras. If there is anything you want to invest in, I would say invest in a really good Lapras. Okay, so our opponent's final Pokemon is a Virizion. I bring in Talonflame. Our opponent swaps out into Lapras, and I'm just going to keep my Regidrago on Lapras. Unfortunately, the Ice Beam is going to be enough to take us out, but we are able to incinerate the Lapras down before they can make it to another Sparkling Aria, and then we can go for a fly for the Virizion. Our opponent just lets it go because they knew that it was over and they were probably not running Stone Edge. Moving on to the next battle, we are going to be up against a Core Breaker for this team. It is Fortress. Now, I think the way I like to play this is I will soft lose the lead. I'm going to go for Dragon Energy, but our opponent actually ends up shielding it. Dragon Energy does quite a bit of damage to Steel types, I would say, resisted damage. But we take the Rock Tomb and then I swap out into Lapras. Okay, they go for a Rock Tomb and then they bring in a Galarian Moltres. I am going to go for Ice Beam. I should be able to reach another one, I think. Do we live this fly? Yes, we do. With a little bit of HP, we can reach that Ice Beam, but I think it's also not going to be enough to KO. They live with like very little HP. I am going to come in with Talonflame, incinerate them down, and hopefully with that little bit of an energy lead, whatever they have left in the back, we can handle with our Talonflame. Okay, it's going to be a Shadow Drifblim. I have 2 shields left. We managed to take their final shield with the fly, and they debuffed us. So I'm not sure if this next fly is going to KO. It doesn't. They bring that Fortress back in, and I have to go for a move. I wasn't sure if fly was going to be enough, so I went for the Brave Bird, but then I swap out immediately into my Regidrago, and I farm the Drifblim down with the Dragon Breaths, and we take that win. Now we are going to go back to Great League, but I just realized that this game is supposed to come before the previous match we just watched. But basically what happened was I decided to play a Great League game in between, again, because queue times are so long. I lost the game and then I went back to Ultra League. So in this match, we're up against a Credilli on the lead. I swap into my Steelix to draw out the Steel type counter, and they bring in a Gastrodon. Okay, really not good for us. I am going to go for a Crunch here, which does a decent amount of damage, but unfortunately for us, we get farmed down. And then I am going to come in with my Regidrago, and I have to take an Earth Power. I think I end up shielding the first one, but they will make it to another one, which I have to let go. And we barely live this. So I need to save a shield for my Scissor. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to go for a Breaking Swipe against their final Pokemon, which is going to be that Shadow Jumpluff. And at this point, there is no way we are going to win this because I have to give up my final shield for the Rock Tomb. I'll go for a Night Slash here, which doesn't KO the Credilli. We have to take another Rock Tomb on the Scissor. I should just go ahead and top left here because there is no way I am going to win this. No idea why I'm staying in. Yep, just top left. No point staying there. Moving on to the next battle, we are up against another Shadow Jumpluff on the lead. I was starting to see a lot of Shadow Jumpluffs, and Jumpluff is a little bit tricky for this team because it's going to hit for neutral with the flying type moves against our Scissor, so Scissor needs shields against it. If it has Energy Ball, then it can hit for neutral against our Steelix. And you guys saw how much damage that did to the Steelix. It did quite a bit of damage, and the Fairy Winds are really going to hurt Regidrago. So that is a Pokemon that I was struggling against with this team, along with Shadow Marowak. Now, we swap out into our Steelix, draw out a Blastoise, and then our opponent is going to bring that Jumpluff back in here. I am going to let whatever this is go. It ends up being an Aerial Ace. So we live and we make it to the Breaking Swipe. But the Breaking Swipe is, of course, not going to be enough to KO, and they reach another move on this Pokemon. So I end up using a shield, and our opponent's final Pokemon is a Greninja. Now, I'm not sure if I could have won this game or not, but I do reach a second Night Slash for the Greninja. They live with red HP. Whatever they're going to throw here is going to KO. It ends up being the Night Slash, and they get a boost, and we even get denied here when I bring in Regidrago. I think if I snuck in one Dragon Breath, then I might have had a chance here, or we might have tied. And I'm not sure if my opponent hadn't gotten the boost, if the Water Shuriken would have KO'd our Regidrago. I think it still would have. But yeah, it was a very, very close match. Moving on to the next battle, we are up against a Clodsire on the lead. Our team does struggle a little bit against Clodsire, especially the Steelix because it's running Thunderfang. But I decided to weaken the Clodsire as much as possible with Regidrago, soft lose the lead, and then come in with our Scissor to farm them down. But our opponent does not let us farm them down. Instead, they bring in Primeape, which we're able to KO before they make it to 2 moves, which is really nice. Actually, I think they were at the 2 moves, but we were able to sneak in the KOing Bullet Punch and take them out before they threw the second Rage Fist. So I still have a shield, and our opponent's final Pokemon is a Manabuzz. And we have a full health Steelix in the back, but here's the thing. Clodsire might still be able to make it to a move, so keeping that in mind, I have to go for a full farm down against the Mandibuzz. That way I could come out of that matchup with 2 Psychic Fangs for Clodsire and take the win, but our opponent goes ahead and top left. And this is where we are going to end the video off. Now after this, I was like, oh, I just need another 3-2 to reach Legend. Well, in Ultra League, I wasn't finding anyone. So of course I had to try to do it in Great League, and I was going to use Regidrago Double Steel. The problem with this team is Regidrago needs shields and Scissor needs shields. So if you use shields on Regidrago, then you're not left with enough shields for Scissor. So it's a squishy team. And I end up losing the next set. I play one more set. I lose that one as well. You could probably predict what ends up happening next. We play another set, we lose that, and I end up dropping around 130 elo. I drop back to the 2,860s. So, in the next video, I am going to reach Legend, but I do it in 2 sets. Stay tuned for the next video. Make sure to watch it. Those games are so good. Some of my best games ever. And if you guys have made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like, it helps me out so much. And I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.